Settle past, no problem. Not well. That's fine. Okay, good. In the last few classes, we were discussing about some of the life processes. Okay, what are all the different life processes which generally occur in our body? Of course, nutrition and digestion, respiration, transportation, excretion. Okay, so some processes which we actually discussed in the previous chapter. You know that, right? We are multicellular organism, right? We are a multicellular organism, right? Apart from those processes, there are other processes also happening in our body. Okay, for example, movement. Okay, one important process is actually called what? Movement. Even connected with what? And you can say or and then solo locomotion. Okay, you know, movement and locomotion also occurs in our body. See, in the first paragraph, in the first few paragraphs in this chapter, they are discussing about different kind of movements. Okay, so of living organisms. Can you tell me what are all the process of in general? So visible movements you can see, right? The movements and all can be studied in different aspects, right? Some movements are visible to everybody, to our naked eye. Some movements you can't actually see which is happening. Can you give examples of movements which you can see in animals, which you cannot see even in our body, human beings? What movements you can see? Visible movements. Yeah. Okay, somebody said walking. Okay, running, walk, pandrathu, running, and then jumping. Okay, so like that, there are different process by which you do. In animals, you can see. Okay, and then invisible movements basically. Okay, walking. All this because of what? What makes? You can see muscular movement. All these things. Okay, like example, as you said, walking, etc. Even when you talk, you can see movement in your body, like your lips are contracting and relaxing. Okay, so these movements you can say, okay, this organism is alive, it's running, it's walking, it's breathing. Okay, so these are all the visible movements you can say in living organisms. In plants, okay, movement in animals. In plants, visible movements in plants. A seed germination. Have you seen the seed germination? Yes, sir. Okay. Kaushik, am I audible to you? Are you here, Kaushik? Am I audible? Okay. So, in plants, how a seed germinates? What is seed germination? The seed is there, and then after germination, the root formation, and then the shoot formation. Can you see? You can see that. And then the plant bends towards light. All these things happens, right? The root formation, shoot formation, and then coming out with all branches, flowering. All these things are actually, you can see slowly it's visible. So that's again the movement, the properties of living organism. So all these things you can see the movements, but there are some invisible movements also. Invisible movements. Can you give me examples of invisible movements? Yeah, you can't see, but the heart contracts, the lung contracts, maybe the breathing, the rib cavity which moves, that you can see actually, but you can't see how your alveolus is there inside your lungs. Lungs contains sac-like structure called alveoli. That alveoli, the gas is coming out and going in. Okay, alveoli is there. And then you are eating. The food is moving along your alimentary canal from mouth to esophagus, esophagus to stomach, stomach to small intestine to large intestine. Can you see that? No. So again, some movements which you cannot see. For example, if you look a plant, there is no air at all. It looks so simple. But what is happening? The root is absorbing water and nutrients, and along the plant it is carried out, and the water is evaporating. Process called what? Transpiration. Okay, transpiration. So all these things, some movements you can see, some movements you cannot see at all, but still all are what? Movement connected processes, living processes, properties of a living organism. Only living organism can show such kind of movements. Okay, life process again in living organisms occurs. Then you can call it as what? Life processes, visible movements, invisible movements. Fine. In what way? But what process we would like to discuss? Control and coordination. What is the main chapter here? Control and coordination. Okay, control and coordination. Okay, control and coordination. Okay, there are visible movements and invisible movements in living organisms, plants, or any kind of organisms. Even a bacteria can move. Right, a bacteria, unicellular organisms can also able to move basically. So if you look in detail, okay, if you observe, if you approach this scientifically, you can understand one thing, something behind is happening in all such kind of movements. Okay, no movement happens just like that. Maybe the blinking of eyes. Okay, maybe turning the neck around, head around, and opening and closing of your fingers, looking here and there. Okay, everything is having some connections. Okay, what makes you to move? What makes this movement? What controls? Some stimulations. Okay, movement is because of what? Some stimulations. There are some stimulation, then only you can move. The movement is because of what? Some stimulations. Okay, how can you classify the stimulations? For example, I can make you move. How? Rohit, please raise your hand. Can you see? He is able to respond to my communications. What I said, he is responding. This is because of what? I am an external factor. Okay, like some stimulations coming out from our environment, for that we respond. If a dog is chasing you, what you will do? Run away. Yes or no? That is your external stimulation. Okay, if any noise is heard behind me, what I will do? I just look back. Yes or no? I just look back. If you are throwing the pen, you're Sending a rocket, what I'll do? I'll close my eyes. Because of what? Some kind of stimulation. I'm talking, you're hearing. Okay? If some good smell, some biryani smell comes or whatever, you feel it, right? You want to eat it, have it. Okay? If anything is moving, you just look it around it. What's moving in and around? So you see, you taste, you smell, and you hear, and you respond. So all these things are actually what? External stimulation. They are stimulation which makes you to communicate yourself, move according to the stimulation coming from the environment. Can you understand? So external stimulation, all they are called what? External stimulation. Okay? External stimulation. Something are called what? Internal stimulation. What are called the internal stimulation? What internal stimulation makes movement in your body? What internal stimulation? See, you have two factors. Your muscle can contract. See, you're moving your hand. Because of what? I'm able to move my hand. Because of what? My brain, listen, is commanding, passing a signal here. It is commanding, stimulating my hand. Without thinking, can you move your hand? Without thinking, can you run? Without thinking, can you smile? You can't do anything without thinking. Okay, there what is involved? Your brain is involved. Okay, what is involved there? Your brain is involved. Means thinking is involved. Internal stimulations. You're thinking. How brain makes you to think? How brain makes you to move? Impulse. It creates, there are neurons, they create what? Impulse, which makes movement in your body. Can you understand? Which does lot of functions in your body. And then you have basically what? Hormones. You have many glands. What you have? Many glands in our body, which produces a chemicals called what? Hormones. For example, your glucose should be taken by the cell. Then only cell can break down glucose, get energy. So cell can utilize glucose only with the hormone insulin. If insulin is there, then only cell can take in glucose. Okay? Your growth from one cell to your multicellular organism, or many processes in the body occur. Your sleep-wake cycle regulated by what? Hormone. Your growth regulated by hormone. Yes or no? Your many of the body processes regulated by hormone. The lactation, it may be lactation, sperm cell production, egg cell production. Okay, you're not commanding your gonads to produce cells. How they perform? Because stimulations, internal stimulations. What stimulations? Hormones. Can you understand? Say, living organisms or important characteristics is movement. The movement can be classified as visible movement, invisible movement. The visible movements like muscular movement, walking, running, all these things, which you can see obviously. In plants, you can see the of the muscles, maybe internally. You can't even see. They are the invisible movements. A plant transportation, that movement actually, water is moving around the plant, all over the plant, but you cannot see. The hormones, okay, so visible and invisible movements are there. In plants, you can see such movements. In animals, you can see such movements. Okay, and these movements are actually looks here and there, somehow they are happening, but actually they are what? Controlled. Can you understand? Dots. Yes, Kaushik, can you hear me? Kaushik?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Can you able to understand, follow?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So please, if you cannot understand anything, follow anything, please let me know. I'll help you.
Fine, sir.
Yeah. Anything else? What is it? Yes. Okay, fine. So, since we are multicellular organisms, we have lot of functions. They should be a coordination. Okay, in multicellular organism, all these processes should occur in a coordinated way. Okay, and these processes like movements, as I said here, visible and invisible movements. There are on the other hand voluntary movement, involuntary movement. Technically speaking, connecting with the control and coordination system, we call it as what? Voluntary movement, involuntary movement. What is called voluntary movement happening in your body? Definitely thinking is involved. You have to think, then only you can do these actions, movement. Okay, some movements you do not have to think, but it is happening. You cannot instruct your carbohydrate, go to the cell, serve as the energy source. You cannot tell. You cannot tell your blood, okay, you stop, you go. You cannot commit your heart. Okay, how many times a heart beats in 1 minute? 72 times. In resting connected beats. Are you telling, okay, come, atria, you work, ventricles, you work. Are you telling it beginning to contract? No. So, these movements are actually called what? If thinking is involved, they are called what? If thinking is involved, they are called what? Voluntary action. Can you see? If thinking is involved, it is called what? Voluntary action. Voluntary movements. If thinking is not involved, they are called what? Involuntary movements. Involuntary action. Like all growth processes or whatever, digestion process, pumping of the heart. Okay? Respiration cycle. How many times we respirate per minute? Per minute, how many seconds? 60
cycles of respiration. Means inspiration and expiration together is one cycle. Contraction, relaxation of the lungs, respiration, inhalation, exhalation. Okay, so 16 you're restricted. But if you're running, you're doing the vigorous exercise. Obviously, there's a change in that. Okay, but you don't have to think about it. Automatically, depends you're running, automatically your heart beats many times. Breathing also. Okay, when you're running or doing any in a hard task, your respiratory cycle increases. Okay, so these are actually called what? Involuntary movements. All these are important for what? Our survival. Okay, voluntary, involuntary. All okay, so in multicellular organism, all these processes, every process is connected with each other. Circulation is connected, excretion should be under that. Okay, to understand in our body all such processes. Current day we studied about the tidbit processes. What is respiration, respiratory system? What is digestion, digestive system?
Many components are there like spinal, nerves, and all these components are made up of what? A little component called neuron. Okay, the smallest component of the smallest component. Okay, small, or you can say even smaller. Okay, component is of control and coordination system is what? Neuron. Okay, of course, we are going to study about parts of brain and different type of Example of neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. Okay, what is the neurotransmitter? Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter. Like in kutti vesicle, in the synaptic knob, the neurotransmitters are produced. Okay, now these neurotransmitters are sent out with the vesicle, a part of synaptic membrane, and the neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters are sent out in a vesicle. This is the vesicle. Okay, neurotransmitter or transmitted. Now what occurs? Say this is a neuron. For example, it has to transmit the impulse to another neuron. Listen, another neuron is here, maybe dendritic membrane. Here you can see there is a depression. In the dendritic membrane, there you can see a depression. This space is called what? Synaptic cleft. What process is going to occur here? What process? This neuron is called what? Presynaptic neuron. What is the presynaptic neuron? The neuron which is going to transmit impulse is called what? Presynaptic neuron. It is called what? Presynaptic neuron. Okay, it is called presynaptic neuron. The neuron which is going to receive the impulse is called what? Postsynaptic neuron. Can you see? Postsynaptic neuron. Okay, presynaptic neuron, postsynaptic neuron. Now, acetylcholine is released. How impulses are transmitted, we are going to discuss. In the synapse region, synaptic cleft, what is the space name called? Synaptic cleft. Impulse means this impulse transmission is called what? Synapse. Okay, here acetylcholine comes. Here the receptors are there. In another cell, what are there? Receptors are there for the acetylcholine, neurotransmitter acetylcholine. For this chemical, acetylcholine will go and bind here. What is it? Receptor. So, neuron will receive impulse through the receptor only. Okay, acetylcholine binds here. Binding of acetylcholine, what it does some changes in the membrane. So, in this process, when acetylcholine bind, influx of Ca plus ion, what is called influx? Many calcium ions enters into the neuron, another neuron. Okay, now after the entry of calcium ions, here action potential starts. Another important pathway, another action potential starts. Can you understand? So this neuron now received impulse and then it transfers to the other cell. Okay, let me sum up these processes. Dendrites receive impulse, transmits impulse with the help of axon. Axon can receive impulse, and also in the nodes of Ranvier, axon can produce impulse because there are the presence of lot of ion channels. So impulse is generated, and the impulse, the current, the voltage reaches the synaptic knob which is present in the nerve ending. This is the nerve ending which possesses many synaptic knob. So there acetylcholine is synthesized, which is a neurotransmitter transferred through a vesicle from presynaptic neuron to the synaptic cleft area. Here the postsynaptic neuron comes. In the membrane they will have receptor for this acetylcholine. If acetylcholine binds, the impulse is transmitted. Can you understand? If there is a non-neuron cell, then that junction is called what? Neuron to neuron EC impulse transmission. If there is a non-neuron cell, then this junction is called what? NMJ. NMJ means what? Neuromuscular junction. NMJ means what? Neuromuscular junction. Okay? Neuromuscular junction. There the impulses are transmitted again. Muscle can react to the impulse. That's how our muscle contraction is happening. Is it clear? From the brain, impulse is coming, reaching the neuromuscular junction, and acetylcholine is transferred. Receiving muscle cell becomes active, and the muscle contraction is initiated. Can you understand? So, different components of neuron with specific function. Now, since we draw the structure of neuron, coming to the type of neuron, what is the type of the neuron? Not all of the neuron in our body of the same type. This neuron is called what? Bipolar neuron. Why bipolar neuron? You have axon and dendrites. One axon, one dendrite if you have, that is called what? Bipolar neuron. Okay? With one axon, you have many dendrites. Then it is called what? Multipolar neuron. Okay? With one axon, many dendrites. It is called what? Multipolar neuron. One axon, one neuron equals unipolar neuron. One axon, many dendrite, multipolar neuron. Sorry, one axon, one dendrite in sonna, bipolar neuron. One axon, one dendrite is called what? Bipolar neuron. One axon, many dendrite, multipolar neuron. Only axon is there, no developed dendrites are there. Then it is called what? Unipolar neuron. Okay, no dendrites, only axon is there. Undifferentiated, not differentiated well the dendrites. So that is called what? Unipolar neuron. Okay, so let me sum up today's class. Listen carefully. We just started with the different kind of movements. Visible movement, invisible movement, and then voluntary movement, involuntary movement, external movement, internal movement, movement in plants, movement in animals. So many things about the movements, and then also many life processes connected with the movement, internal movement or external movement. Many life processes are connected with, and the reason for knowing all about these movements is all these movements occur in a coordinated way. Okay, so all of the processes in the multicellular organism are controlled and coordinated. Not happens just like that. With proper control and coordination only, all such processes are happening in the body. Okay, so that system in our body is called what? Control and coordination system. What are the components of control and coordination system? Brain, spinal cord, nerves. And the basic, we will be studying about all these things, and the basic unit of central nervous system, all these three components is a neuron. So to understand the neuron, we should understand about its property. What is the important property of neuron? They are excitable cells. Excitable cells means what property they have? They produce impulse, they transmit impulse, they receive impulse, and they respond to impulse. Okay, and we draw the structure of neuron here and labeled all the components: dendrites, cyton or cell body, Nissl granules, nucleus, axon, nerve ending, synaptic knob, Schwann cells, which forms myelinated sheath actually? Yes or no? And then axolemma, axoplasm, nodes of Ranvir, synapse, the gap, synaptic cleft, basically the gap, presynaptic neuron, postsynaptic neuron. All these things we actually about the component and their specific functions we discussed. Okay, so neuromuscular junction, synaptic cleft. Synaptic cleft is between two neurons. Neuromuscular junction is between one neuron and a non-neuron. Neurotransmitter, acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is released from presynaptic neuron. It reaches postsynaptic neuron. Who receives acetylcholine? Postsynaptic neuron will possess receptor. The receptor only receives acetylcholine. Thus, from one neuron to other neuron, impulse is transmitted. Can you understand? So, what you must be thorough in next classes. Purpose of different movements, voluntary movements, involuntary movements in different organisms, and then the importance of control and coordination system, and then the basic unit neuron. That's the most important aspect. What is neuron? What are the different components? What specific function each and every component is having? Together, what function the neuron does? Means it is excitable, all property connect with its structure and components. Okay, fine, good. So this is what the main important aspect of today's class. Next class, we will be discussing about what reflex action or the system, nervous system, all these things. Thank you. Take care.